Welcome to the SAP HANA Academy. My name's Bob, and in this series of videos we'll be going through SAP HANA Vora 1.3. In this series of videos we'll be going through the installation. So in the previous video we created ourselves a SUSE/11 SP4 image in Amazon Web Services. What we're going to do in this video is look at connecting to this image, and also we're going to look at creating some users on the image in order for us to carry out our installs of Hadoop and Vora. So during the install, what you will have done is actually downloaded a PEM file, and you use that PEM file to log into your Linux server. Now there are different ways to log into your Linux servers. You can use PuTTY on Windows, but I'm going to use Terminal on my Mac. Now, if you want to know how to launch PuTTY, all you need to do is go on Google, do a search for the SAP HANA Academy, and if you actually do a search for Vora 1.2, there's a series of videos which go through how to install Vora 1.2. So what you're essentially going to look for is the SAP HANA Vora 1.2 playlist. So on the playlist here, there's a series of videos which show you how to obviously install SAP HANA Vora 1.2, but this series of videos also shows you how to instantiate a Windows desktop in AWS. And also, if you scroll down, when it comes to connecting to the three nodes, how to install PuTTY and also PuTTY-gen to convert the PEM file to a PPK. So if you have a Windows machine, you might want to look at those videos on how to do this. However, because I'm going to use a Mac and some people have requested videos on how to connect via a Mac, in this series of videos for SAP HANA Vora 1.3, I'm going to use a Mac. So the first thing that you need to do is launch your terminal, and terminal's normally available on your Mac within the utilities folder. So if I do an ls, the default will be my home directory, and if I go into my desktop and do an ls, there you can see we've got that Vora key that we downloaded a few minutes ago. So where does that Vora key go? Well, it needs to go in a specific folder in your home folder, and that folder is called SSH. So if I do an ls of that folder to look at the directory content, you can see here we've got some various files, public and private keys. What we essentially need to do is copy that file within this folder, because this contains your PEM files if you've connected to Linux servers before. So the command is very simple. All I need to do is run the following, which is to copy that Vora 13.pem.txt file to the home folder within the SSH folder. You might need to create it if it doesn't exist, and I'm going to call it Vora 13.pem. Oops, so if I go back and change this command like so, we've now copied that file. So again, if I go up and do an ls of that folder, what we'll see now is we've got that Vora 13.pem file. So that's the first thing. The next thing is we have to change the rights on that, because if we leave the rights as they are, we'll get issues when we try and log in with SSH. So you can do this with a chmod 400, and then you're going to specify that file. So for me, it's in my users bob.ssh, and it's that Vora PEM file. We're just changing the rights of that file. That's the next step. The last step is we just need to log in. So to log in, we use the command ssh-i. The parameter -i is the name of the key. So as you know, it's the users. For me, it's Bob, and I put it in my .ssh, and it's that Vora 13.pem file. And then we need to choose the user and the IP address of the server that we want to log into. So in AWS, the default user is ec2-user. And then with an ampersand, you specify the IP address. Of course, the IP address you go and get is the public IP address from AWS. So what I'm going to do in my case, I'm going to copy this public IP address, paste the IP address in, and press return. So we'll be prompted for the authenticity of the host which we're trying to connect to. So I'm just going to click on yes. And then we should have logged into our SUSE11 SP4 Linux server. So I'll just here type a clear. So for the commands that I'm going to type here, of course you'll see them being executed on the screen, but if you do a search for SAP HANA Vora 1.3 in our GitHub repository, you'll find all the commands there, and you can simply do a cut and paste. So the first thing is we have to install some packages on our server, they should already be there on this image, but in case you don't have the same image, we have to install some packages which are required by the various SAP HANA Vora servers. And we have to do some simple maintenance. Again, what I'll do is I'll launch a new tab in Google and I'll go to Help SAP HANA or Help SAP Com Vora, and you'll get the SAP Help portal page for SAP HANA Vora. Of course, you might want to check that installation guide just to make sure there's anything that might need to be added in new fixes or builds of the future releases of SAP HANA Vora. And of course, it gives you all the various options within that PDF. Now, the easiest way to do this is to do this as the root user. So if I do a sudo su-dash, what we might need to do first is make sure that our clock is up and running, our NTP server. So if I just paste in the following command, all we're doing is making sure that our NTP network time protocol daemon is up and running, and as you can see it is. So to install that package for Vora, the command is as follows. So it's a zipper install, and the package we need to install is called libaio. Now again, you can see here it's already installed, the highest version is installed, so we don't need to do anything there. However, we need to make a couple of changes to some of our files. So in this file called file max, if I do a cat/procsysfs file-max, this shows us the current system file descriptor limit. So we just need to set this limit to specifically 65536 per 1 GB of RAM. So if I have a look at that file, this is what it's set to at the moment. It's high. So for me, 65536 times 15 GB of RAM, which is on my machine, equals the following amount. So in order to write to this file, all I need to do is execute the following command. If I copy that and paste that in, it looks like this. So I'm setting the file max to be 938040, which again is 15 times that 65535. And I'm essentially modifying this sysctl.com file. So of course, depending on how big your server is, you might need to modify it differently. Now all I need to do then is run a syscontrol-p to make the system aware of the changes. So if I do that syscontrol-p, you can see here that we've written that new change. There's another setting that we need to do, so I'll just type a clear. So we just need to change what's called the ulimits value. So if I do a cat of etcsecuritylimits.conf, you'll see this file. It contains a list of your limitations, your limits, sorry. So all we need to do is add the following line to this file. So this command here, again, it's in the GitHub repository. What this will do is write to the end of this file, and it will set the limit at 1 million, like so. We're just basically appending that to the file. How do you know it's there? Well, if I go back to the same file and cat, you can see at the end of the file now we've written this line here. So that's the next step. We've modified ulimits. So the last step is to look at the locale. So if I do a locale as this user, you can see this is the locale at the moment. We might need to set it, so I'm going to set it to be US English. So the simple way to do this is to run the following command, which will export the locale for everything as US English and UTF-8. And again, if we run a locale, we can see those changes have been made. And again, I'll run a clear. So lastly, there's a few more packages that you need to install. And of course, all of these are detailed within the installation guide. Now I'm going to install two packages which prepare the document store server and also prepare the disk engine server. But you may need to install other packages depending on your environment. So for the document store server to work, you need this following package, which is called numactl. Again, for me, it's already installed. And for the disk engine server, you need to install the package called libtool. And again, for me, that's already installed. Now, there's actually one more package you should look at installing. It's mentioned again in the latest version of the install guide. And it's the same command as above, sudo zipper install, but the package you install prepares the cluster manager, and it's called lsof. And again, you might get the same message here that it's already installed, but it's best to make sure that you execute those three commands, as you might not be using the same base image I'm using. So for these packages and changes to the conf files to take effect, all we need to do is log out as that sudo su user, and then if I press up, I'm going to log back in and do a clear. So to recap, in this video, what we've done is we've connected to our SUSE Linux server in AWS. We've installed some packages that may be required on a Linux server, and also we've modified some conf files which are needed for the SAP HANA Vora servers. Now what we're going to do in the next video is create ourselves a user which will be then used to install Hadoop on our Linux server.